U.S. hosts a summit of Association of Southeast Asian Nation Leaders. Hello and welcome to VOA Asia Weekly. I'm Chris Casqueo in Washington. That story coming up, but first making headlines. Former Hong Kong Police Chief John Lee was elected the business hub's new leader without contest. He pledged allegiance to China's central government. Cardinal Joseph Zen, the outspoken former Roman Catholic Bishop of Hong Kong, was arrested under the national security law for alleged foreign collusion. South Korea's new president, Yoon Suk-yeol, began his 5-year term vowing to enforce sanctions on North Korea and stand up for freedom and democracy. The world's largest automaker, Toyota, warned unprecedented hikes in raw material costs could reduce profits by up to a fifth this year. Buildings shook briefly in Taipei after a 6.1 magnitude earthquake struck off Taiwan's east coast. Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the namesake son of the ousted Philippine dictator, declared victory in this week's presidential elections. Vowing to be a leader for all Filipinos, Marcos Jr. garnered more than 31 million votes in an unofficial count.
I am guided by that in the sense that I will continue to work for a government, an administration that gives voice to everyone who wants to help.
He will take office on June 30th after the results are confirmed by the Philippines Congress. While the leaders of the Philippines and Myanmar are not attending the U.S. ASEAN summit, it is the first time for Southeast Asian leaders to gather here in Washington. As VOA's Jessica Stone reports, it comes at a critical time for regional security and increasing economic engagement.
In the decades ahead.
Since the first ASEAN summit was held in the U.S. in 2016 at Sunnylands in California, Southeast Asian leaders have witnessed a military coup, natural disasters, a pandemic, and now fuel and food shortages due to the war in Ukraine and China's port lockdowns.
In Asia, trade, for example, is often perceived as strategy. And we know historically that while the United States has been very, very successful in the security element of strategy, it's the trade dimension of strategy that has been more challenging.
While 6 ASEAN member states are among Washington's top trading partners, experts say the U.S. will not unveil any major economic engagement initiatives during the summit. So what can the summit deliver for the region? Observers say Southeast Asia wants reassurances that American military support for NATO and Ukraine will not come at a cost to continuing its commitments in the Indo-Pacific. Experts also say Washington needs to send a clear message on the U.S.-China relationship, particularly around freedom of navigation in the South China Sea.
You have to see strong condemnation of Chinese behavior at every summit like this, or some parties in the region see the U.S. is going wobbly.
One area where ASEAN is already stepping in is providing an alternative to the Chinese manufacturing supply chain. The U.S. ASEAN Business Council says Malaysia is expected to announce increased cooperation with American semiconductor manufacturers. Jessica Stone, VOA News, Washington.
Please visit our website, voanews.com, for the most up-to-date news. This is VOA Asia Weekly. Tensions are still running high in Sri Lanka following the resignation of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. His brother, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, has so far refused to resign. A severe foreign currency shortfall has resulted in acute shortages of necessities. Finally, on VOA Asia Weekly, Australian government scientists say the iconic Great Barrier Reef has sustained another mass coral bleaching event. The Great Barrier Reef Marine Authority said more than 90% of the world's largest coral reef ecosystem was bleached during a prolonged summer heat wave. Bleaching occurs when the sea is too warm for too long. It forces the coral to expel microscopic algae that gives it most of its energy and color. It was the fourth such mass bleaching event in 7 years. That's all the time we have here on VOA Asia Weekly. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Chris Casquejo. Please be sure to tune in again next week.